In late 39 of the Common Era, the Roman Emperor demanded divine honors while alive and ordered the Jerusalem temple converted into his shrine. He ordered a colossal gold-plated statue of himself in the form of Jupiter to be installed in the Holy of Holies. From order to assassination, the project would last about a year. The temple lasted because the emperor did not. The emperor was Gaius Caesar, who history remembers by his childhood nickname Caligula, Little Boot. By 39, he was dressing as Jupiter and demanding worship while alive, not the standard imperial cult after death, but right now in the temples of his empire. Across most of the empire, this was inconvenient but manageable. An altar, a pinch of incense, home by sundown. There was one nation that would not. A petty altar dispute in the Judean town of Yamnia gave him the pretext. The Greek minority erected an altar to the emperor. The Jewish majority demolished it. The procurator of the imperial estate, a man named Capito, wrote to Rome. Philo of Alexandria, who was in Italy that winter, tells us Capito had reasons of his own. He had been stealing from his post and wanted a deflection. He got one. Caligula's response was theological rather than punitive. He decided to convert the entire Jerusalem temple into a shrine of his own cult. A colossal gilded statue of himself in the guise of Jupiter would stand in the Holy of Holies, the inner chamber the high priest alone entered once a year. The order went not to the procurator of Judea, but north to Syria, to Publius Petronius, legate of Syria, commanding 4 legions on the Euphrates frontier with Parthia. The order in Philo's account was specific. Take 2 legions, march south. If the Jews resist, kill them. Install the statue. Petronius read the letter and understood what he had been asked to do. Here is Philo. Petronius was in great perplexity, not being able to resist the order sent to him out of fear, for he heard that the emperor's wrath was implacable, not only against those who did not do what they were commanded to do, but who did not do it in a moment. And on the other hand, he did not see how it was easy to perform them, for he knew that the Jews would be willing to endure 10,000 deaths instead of 1, rather than submit. Petronius had governed Syria long enough to know what this order meant. The Holy of Holies was not a tax increase or a troop levy. He chose to stall. The Roman system gave him one natural source of delay. No statue had been sent ready-made from Rome. He had been instructed to have one built. So he sent for Phoenician sculptors who set up shop in Sidon, a safe distance from any Jewish population center. And Philo says he told the sculptors to take their time and make the work perfect. Then he marched 2 legions south to Ptolemais on the Galilean frontier and waited. The Jews came to him. Tens of thousands of them, unarmed, streamed out of Jerusalem and Galilee and surrounded the Roman camp. They prostrated themselves on the ground, then they spoke. Here is the speech in Philo's record compressed. We have brought unto you our wives and our children and our whole families. We willingly and readily submit ourselves to be put to death. Let your troops slay us. Let them cut us to pieces, unresisting and uncontending. We ourselves, admirable priests for the purpose. We begin the sacrifice. And when we are dead, let this be inscribed over us as an epitaph. Let not even God blame us, who have had a due regard to both pious loyalty towards the emperor and the reverential preservation of our holy laws. Petronius listened. Then he sat down and wrote a letter to the emperor recommending the project be dropped. He framed it as economic prudence. The harvest is failing. The Jews have stopped tilling. The imperial revenue will collapse. You are planning a coastal trip to Alexandria. You will need provision cities along the way. Josephus, writing decades later, puts it plainly. Petronius decided that it was fit for virtuous persons even to die for the sake of such vast multitudes of men. The letter went west across the Mediterranean by ship. Meanwhile, in Rome, a Jewish king walked into the imperial palace. His name was Agrippa, grandson of Herod the Great. He had been raised at the imperial court alongside Caligula's father and uncle. He was, in any normal sense, one of Caligula's oldest friends. He had no idea what had been happening in Syria. Philo and Josephus tell the next scene differently. In Philo's version, the eyewitness one, Caligula told Agrippa directly, "Your loyal and excellent fellow citizens, the only nation of men upon the whole face of the earth by whom Caius is not esteemed to be a god, appear now to be even desiring to plot my death in their obstinate disobedience. For when I commanded my statue in the character of Jupiter to be erected in their temple," Agrippa, in Philo's account, collapsed. His body went bloodshot, then pale, then livid. He trembled, he fainted, and attendants carried him to his palace. where he lay in a stupor for the better part of 2 days. When he woke, he refused food. He called for writing tablets. He composed a long letter to the emperor, a letter Philo reproduces in full, and which Philo himself may have helped draft. Josephus tells us a different version, involving a banquet and a rash promise. Either way, Caligula relented. He wrote a second letter to Petronius, cancels the statue. The order is rescinded. I have done this as a favor to my friend Agrippa. The crisis should have ended there. It didn't. Sometime in the weeks after the cancellation letter went out, Petronius' stalling letter from Syria arrived in Rome. The emperor read it, recognized that he had been stalled by his own legate, and went into a rage. He fired a third letter to Petronius, ordering him to commit suicide. And according to Philo, at the same time, he privately reordered the statue, not in Sidon, this time in Rome. A new colossal bronze statue, gilded over, would be built secretly in the imperial capital, loaded onto a ship, and carried east as part of Caligula's planned tour to Alexandria. It would be installed in Jerusalem by surprise, before the Jews could organize opposition. The Eastern tour was scheduled for the spring of 41. On the 24th of January, 41 of the Common Era, a Praetorian tribune named Cassius Chaerea, with several other officers, stabbed Caligula to death in a corridor of the imperial palace in Rome. The grievance was personal. Caligula had spent years mocking him for the pitch of his voice. None of it had anything to do with the Jews. But it ended the crisis. The new statue was never finished. The Eastern tour never sailed. Caligula's successor, Claudius, nudged by the same Agrippa I, who happened to be in Rome at the moment of the assassination, reversed the policy immediately. Josephus preserves one further detail. The death warrant letter ordering Petronius to commit suicide was still in transit when Caligula died. He tells it twice. In wars, he gives the timing precisely. Those who brought Caius' epistle were tossed by a storm and were detained on the sea for 3 months, while others that brought the news of Caius' death had a good voyage. Accordingly, Petronius received the epistle concerning Caius 7 and 20 days before he received that which was against himself. 27 days. The letter telling Petronius the emperor was dead arrived 27 days before the letter telling Petronius the emperor wanted him to kill himself. Modern historians have called this story too neat. They suspect Josephus has shaped a legend in which the righteous Gentile is saved by providence at the last possible moment. They may be right. But the bare chronology remains. Caligula was assassinated on the 24th of January, 41. The statue ordered for the Holy of Holies was never installed. The war it would almost certainly have triggered did not happen. The war we remember came 25 years later on a different provocation. Petronius lived. Agrippa survived. The temple stood for another generation. A legate who stalled bought the months. A king who staked his life on a single petition bought the year. The rest came by accident. A storm, a knife in a corridor. Now you know.